Hi, it's Peter here with RGB Filter, and we're here with Jeff Lemire, creator of Sweet Tooth, which we recently reviewed on the site. You guys got obviously hit up our review on that. Do you want to talk to us a little about the comic and where that came from, where your inspiration was, that sort of stuff?
Sure, yeah. It's I guess a post-apocalyptic fairy tale, I guess, for adults. Sort of it follows a little boy with antlers in a really violent post-apocalyptic world trying to survive, and there's also a greater mystery about where these animal hybrid children came from and what role they've played in the apocalypse and things like that. So it's sort of like a road movie, western, futuristic thriller. And yeah, it's just a mix of all kinds of genres and books that I loved growing up, like Mad Max and things like that. So.
Yeah, it kind of struck me as like a cross between The Road and Fables, almost.
Yeah, that's a good comparison, I guess. There really is a mix of all kinds of different stuff that I grew up reading. So. Yeah.
And you do both the writing and the art for the comic.
Yeah,
I mean, how long have you been drawing for? Where did you learn to? Was there any particular training, or did you just pick it up yourself?
I was pretty much self-taught. You know, I've just been drawing since I was really young, and always drawing comics. And you know, I just started off copying my favorite comics, and eventually developed my own style and decided I wanted to tell stories doing that. So you know, I've just been doing it for years and years, and taking it seriously for about 10 years, and working professionally for about 5. So.
I mean, the art style on Sweet Tooth, it really is incredible. It's got such a unique look to it. Was there any particular artist that kind of inspired you, and in particular you look to as a source of inspiration or anything?
There wouldn't be one particular person, but I was definitely more influenced by a lot of European cartoonists. I find that the Europeans generally much more expressive, painterly approach to cartooning. They're not so concerned with photorealism, and so which really reflects sort of my art. Just very expressive, very, I guess, going for more of an emotional truth rather than a literal photographic truth with your images.
And Sweet Tooth is a continuing series, of course. Where do you see the comic going at this point? What have we got coming down the line?
Well, our second storyline just ended, and the collected edition comes out in November, and I'm starting the third, so it's probably going to run about 30 or 40 issues, and issue 13 is due out any day, so I'm getting close to the halfway point of the series.
Is the ending, have you got a solid ending in mind, or are you waiting for it?
I've always known the end, so it's just a matter of getting my characters to that point. Yeah.
And we can expect to see a lot more from... I've completely forgotten the name of the guy with the guns.
Oh, Jeopard. Yes.
Yeah. And we expect to see a lot more development of Jeopard and his past.
Yeah,
Some interesting hints dropped in the first volume.
Right. The second volume focuses pretty much totally on his past, and we really get to see what led him to become the character he was in our first arc, and really fleshes him out and sets both characters on an interesting kind of path as the story develops.
And can we expect to see what's behind the whole change gone to the world?
Yeah, I mean, that's the ongoing mystery. It's not going to be something that I resolve right away, but it's sort of, it will be resolved. I'm definitely going to have an answer to things.
Got a definite arc in mind for that.
Yeah, it's going to not just going to be left dangling for sure.
Now, you've also got some other work you're doing from DC. You've got a one-shot on the Atom that you just did recently for their Brightest Day run. What was that like, working on on that project?
It was interesting. It's the first time I've written a script for another artist, so it was really fun to kind of, get my ideas down on paper, send them off, and then just sort of let go and see what comes back. And kind of, in some cases, you're really surprised by the art that comes back. Sometimes it's not what you had in mind, but it's better than what you would have done, or sometimes there's maybe a little different than you imagined it, but it still works. So it's interesting to be able to collaborate with someone and be surprised by the work. Where when I'm doing it myself, I pretty much know what's going to happen and what it's going to look like and stuff. So.
Is it feeling like there's a loss of control there when you go away from doing your own art?
I mean, you could probably take it that way and let it bother you, or you could just embrace the collaboration and enjoy it. So I decided just to, hopefully trust my artist and find someone I really like to work with and just have fun with it. So.
And did DC give you a lot of control over who you picked for an artist? Was that
they had picked the artist, but I loved his stuff and we got along great, so it just really worked out well for us.
And you've also got you're starting a Superboy series.
Yeah, I'm doing a new Superboy monthly comic for DC. It starts in November. It's going to focus on small town superheroics and sort of a real rural flair to to the Superboy mythos.
And what's your take on that character? Because it seems to me like Connor's been an interesting, a difficult guy for a lot of people to get a handle on. Do you have a real angle on Connor that you're going for?
Well, my kind of angle on him is that he's sort of half his origin, for people that don't know, is he's cloned from both Lex Luthor and Superman, so he kind of has that dual nature, which is really interesting for a writer to explore. But I also want him to not just dwell on that. I want him to sort of start accepting that he is part Lex Luthor, and he doesn't necessarily have to be evil. He can sort of take the good things about Luthor, his intelligence and his ingenuity, and kind of use that himself and become a better person.
Sounds interesting. And how long is that arc run going to go on for? Is that
It'll be an ongoing book. So I mean, I have the first year's worth of stories plotted out. And beyond that, we'll just see how sales are and how it's receptive.
Any hints on any villains we would like to see?
No villains, but I will say that the Phantom Stranger is a main player in the series, which will be a lot of fun to write.
That'll be an interesting one to see again. It's not a character we see a lot in the comics.
Yeah, not someone you'd expect to see with Superboy, which is what's so fun about putting them together.
Is that, I mean, I take it that's a character you're a fan of from your own reading?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of all of the DC sort of supernatural characters. I grew up reading the Alan Moore Swamp Things, and he did a lot of really great takes on like the Phantom Stranger and Deadman and Etrigan, and so those characters are really fun to sort of explore and play around with.
A lot of the kind of the very kind of wild, trippy early days Alan Moore stuff, where he really kind of got into the character studies rather than it was less kind of bam pow and more let's see who this person really is.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you feel like you're going to be trying to do something like that with Superboy? Do you feel like you've got
totally
something
what
you
I want
say
to do,
about that character?
Well, I mean, I definitely have something I want to say. I don't want to give away my plans for the character too far ahead, but yeah, I definitely want to sort of get to the heart of what it would really be like to be a superpowered teenager living in rural America, and if that was really happening, how would that affect him, but also how would it affect the community and how would it affect the people around him in that small town, and knowing how insular small towns can be and how it's really hard to keep a secret, and just playing with that and seeing how that kind of affects him socially and whatnot as well.
And that's a theme you've touched on heavily in your previous work. Obviously, Essex County.
Yeah.
It's very small town rural stories from where you grew up.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. And then of course the Nobody. That that transparency of the small town.
Superboy will really be a continuation of a lot of those themes, but maybe taking it a little further into the fantasy realm, because now it is an actual superhero I'm dealing with rather than sort of real small town people. But that's kind of fun to do too, to take this sort of super normal character and plunk him down in an everyday small town and see how they react and stuff. That's interesting to me. So.
Kind of take the aspect of that superhero, that kind of elevated character that people can relate to. Like you say, okay, I don't know how to fly, but I know what it's like to grow up in a small town and
exactly. So
I can totally relate to what this guy's going through.
It'll give readers something to connect to and something to relate to him with. Yeah.
Do you feel like you're going to be exploring the relationship with Cassie anymore? The whole thing with him and
there's
Wonder
definitely
Girl?
stuff going on there. I can't talk about it. It's all hush hush right now.
And this one's just my own personal music. Will we get to see more of Krypto?
Yeah, he's a big player. He'll be in every issue, and I love Krypto.
I couldn't agree more there.
Yeah.
Jeff, thank you for your time.
Great, thanks.
Great chatting to you.
You too.
Well, guys, check out Sweet Tooth if you haven't already. I highly recommend it. It's a fantastic comic. And have a look at Jeff's run on Superboy when that comes out, and we'll be looking into that as soon as it hits the shelves.